You sacrificed your time, your money, your peace of mind, all to pull someone out of the dark. You expected nothing but basic loyalty. What you got instead was resentment, coldness, or a knife in the back. If this sounds familiar, stop blaming yourself. You aren't naive and you aren't a bad judge of character. You just stumbled blindly into a psychological trap that Friedrich Nietzsche warned us about over a century ago. Society sells us a comforting lie. We are taught that generosity breeds gratitude, that saving someone builds an unbreakable bond. It doesn't. Paradoxically, the act of saving someone is often the exact catalyst that destroys the relationship. Today, we are going to dissect the brutal anatomy of betrayal. We will strip away the illusions surrounding gratitude, the human ego, and a dangerous psychological condition called the savior complex. We will explore not just why they turn on you, but why you secretly need them to need you. Before we tear apart this uncomfortable truth, if you value raw, unfiltered insights into human psychology and ancient philosophy, take a second to subscribe and hit the bell. Leave a like and share your own experiences with betrayal in the comments. We are building a community of deep thinkers who prefer harsh realities over sweet lies. Let us begin with the first unbearable reality, the invisible humiliation of help. The moment you step in to rescue someone, whether you are lending them money to save their business or carrying their emotional baggage for months, you do not just solve their problem. You irreversibly alter the invisible power dynamic between the two of you. You become the savior. They become the dependent. You hold the power, and they are exposed in their absolute, naked weakness. Nietzsche extensively explored the will to power, the fundamental human drive to feel capable, autonomous, and strong. It is the core of human dignity. When you help someone at their lowest point, you inadvertently crush that will. You force them to look in the mirror and admit an uncomfortable truth: I could not survive on my own. In the immediate aftermath of your help, gratitude is their initial reaction. They thank you profusely, but gratitude has a very short expiration date. As days turn into weeks, that gratitude hardens into an emotional debt, and debt is deeply humiliating. It is a constant psychological burden. Every time they look at you, they are reminded of the moment they were helpless. You, simply by existing in their orbit, become a walking, breathing monument to their incompetence. They cannot handle the shame of that reflection. It burns them, so the ego kicks in as a defense mechanism. To regain their sense of power, their psyche must diminish yours. They stop seeing you as a benefactor. They start seeing you as a threat to their self-worth. The gratitude ferments, rotting into a quiet, toxic resentment. They begin to actively look for your flaws to pull you off the moral pedestal. They distance themselves. Or worse, they betray you entirely, justifying their actions by convincing themselves you had an ulterior motive all along. They will tell themselves you only helped them to feed your own superiority. You didn't do anything malicious. You simply underestimated how fiercely a fragile human ego will fight to protect itself from the shame of dependency. Now, turn the mirror around. If you are constantly the one being betrayed, you must confront a brutal, highly uncomfortable question. Why are you always playing the savior? We love to tell ourselves that we help out of pure altruistic goodness. We want to be the loyal friend, the supportive partner, the reliable colleague. But depth psychology, particularly Carl Jung's concept of the shadow, strips away this comfortable lie. Your shadow contains the unconscious, repressed parts of your personality, the motives you refuse to admit even to yourself. Often, chronic helping is not altruism. It is a covert narcissistic pursuit. It is the savior complex. You help because fixing someone else's life distracts you from the terrifying chaos in your own. You give because being needed is profoundly intoxicating. When someone relies on you for money, for emotional stability, for guidance, it guarantees they will not abandon you, or so your subconscious thinks. You are using your generosity as an emotional insurance policy against your own loneliness and insecurities. Deep down, the recipient feels this. Human beings are hypersensitive to hidden agendas, even the unspoken ones. They sense that your help comes with an invisible psychological price tag. They realize your generosity is subtly feeding your ego, keeping them in a subordinate position so you can continue playing the hero, and they deeply resent you for it. They do not betray your kindness. They rebel against your shadow. Look at the raw mechanics of the power balance. Think of a relationship as a perfectly balanced scale. When you inject a massive favor into that dynamic, a large loan, a career-saving introduction, months of carrying their emotional trauma, you slam a heavy iron weight onto your side of the scale. Instantly, you shoot up onto a moral pedestal. They plummet to the bottom. Nobody wants to look up at their friends. No partner wants to feel like a charity case in their own home. You might not demand worship, but your mere presence demands their deference. You have unintentionally stripped them of their autonomy. To regain their psychological footing, they must destroy the structure you built. They start to pull away. They stop returning calls. They critique your life choices. Consider a scenario you have likely experienced or witnessed. You get your struggling friend a job at your company. You vouch for them. You stick your neck out. For the first few weeks, they are endlessly thankful. By month 3, they are subtly undermining your ideas in meetings. They start gossiping with the exact colleagues who dislike you. Why? Because every time they see you in the hallway, they are reminded that they did not earn their place. You are the author of their survival, which means they are not. To reclaim their identity, they must mentally sever the tie to your assistance. Backstabbing you is their twisted, desperate way of declaring independence. This is silent jealousy manifesting into action. Your stability, your discipline, your capacity to help, it all acts as a blinding mirror. When they look at you, they do not see a benevolent savior. They see a glaring reflection of their own failure. If you manage to get your life together enough to rescue them, why couldn't they? Nietzsche observed this dark, festering corner of the human soul. He noted that the weak cannot tolerate the superiority of the strong. Instead of striving to rise to your level of discipline and capability, it is significantly easier for them to drag you down into their mud. They weaponize their own powerlessness. They mutate their shame into a false morality, convincing themselves that you are actually arrogant, controlling, or condescending. By demonizing you, they successfully absolve themselves of the debt. If you are suddenly the villain in their narrative, they owe you absolutely nothing. The betrayal is not a sudden act of malice. It is a calculated survival tactic of a suffocating ego trying to breathe again. Let's talk about gratitude. We are conditioned to believe gratitude is a pure, eternal emotion. It is not. Gratitude is a highly volatile state. It has a desperately short half-life. When you pull someone out of a financial hole or a psychological crisis, they feel relief. But as the crisis fades, the relief evaporates, leaving behind only the cold, hard reality of the debt. And emotional debt is infinitely heavier than financial debt. You can pay back $1,000. How do you pay back the fact that someone held you together when you were completely broken? You can't. This inability to repay creates a psychological trap. It breeds guilt. Guilt mutates into embarrassment. Embarrassment, when left to fester, inevitably turns into anger. They don't hate you because you are bad. They hate you because you are good. Your inherent goodness, your stability, your generosity. It all becomes a glaring spotlight exposing their inadequacy. Friedrich Nietzsche pinpointed this exact phenomenon when he analyzed the concept of resentment. He observed that those who feel powerless cannot handle their own inferiority. They cannot process the pain of being the lesser in the dynamic. So, what is the easiest psychological escape route? Inversion. They flip the script. The person you help begins to rewrite history. They convince themselves that your help wasn't actually that significant. I would have figured it out anyway. They tell themselves, then it goes a step further. They start looking for ulterior motives. You only helped me to feel superior. You wanted to control me. By transforming you into a manipulator, an oppressor, or a narcissist, they magically erase their debt. The hero becomes the villain. And suddenly, betraying you isn't an act of treachery. It's an act of liberation. It's justice. Look at your own life. Have you ever lent a significant amount of money to a friend? What happened next? Did they call you more often? Did the bond deepen? Rarely. Instead, you noticed the subtle shifts. They started avoiding your calls. They stopped making eye contact. When you did speak, they were defensive, easily irritated by the smallest things. You disrupted the natural ecosystem of your relationship. In every human connection, there is an invisible balance of power. When you constantly give, When you become the eternal provider of time, energy, money, or opportunities, you place yourself on an insurmountable pedestal. You force them to kneel. Even if you never ask them to, the sheer weight of your generosity forces them to their knees. And nobody likes the view from the bottom. Some individuals would rather torch a decade-long friendship to the ground than endure the daily humiliation of feeling subordinate. It is brutal. It defies all logic of kindness, but it is fundamentally, undeniably human. Carl Jung warned us about this. When you refuse to acknowledge the darker, resentful parts of the human psyche, both theirs and yours, you walk blindly into a trap. You assumed their thank you was the end of the transaction. You failed to realize it was the beginning of a psychological war. You must understand that weakness is terrifying. When people are weak, they are vulnerable to exploitation. By seeing them at their lowest, you possess the ultimate ammunition against them. You know their secrets. You know their failures. In their paranoid, ego-driven state, you are a walking threat. Betraying you, cutting you off, or smearing your name is a preemptive strike. They are eliminating the only witness to their darkest hour. This brings us to a harsh realization. If you have been stabbed in the back by someone you carried on your shoulders, you are likely internalizing the blame. You are replaying the tapes, wondering what you said wrong, how you could have been more supportive. Stop. You are not the problem. Your flaw wasn't malice, it was a lack of understanding of human nature. You ignored the fragility of the human ego. You forgot that people will fiercely protect their illusion of independence, even if it means destroying the very hand that fed them. If you accept this brutal truth, that the human ego is violently allergic to the humiliation of emotional debt, you face a terrifying crossroads. Do you stop helping entirely? Do you lock your doors, shut off your empathy, and watch the world burn from a distance? Do you become cold, cynical, and isolated? No, becoming bitter is just another form of weakness. It is letting the fragility of others destroy your capacity for virtue. You do not stop helping, but you must mercilessly kill the savior inside of you. You must completely dismantle the way you have been conditioned to give and learn the implicit, uncomfortable rule that Nietzsche's philosophy demands. You must learn to help without creating dependency. True power, philosophical power, is not about putting someone on your back and carrying them across the finish line. That is an insult to their potential. It strips them of the exact struggle they require to forge their own resilience. When you solve someone's problem entirely, you are not being kind. You are being an anesthetic. You are numbing their pain temporarily, only to leave them atrophied, dependent, and ultimately resentful of the person holding the syringe. Instead of an anesthetic, your help must be a catalyst. It must trigger their own internal will to survive. Consider the 50-50 rule of psychological intervention. You never invest more energy in saving a person's life than they are willing to invest themselves. If they take one step, you help them take the second. If they stop, you stop. If they sit in the mud and refuse to walk, you do not pick them up. You stand beside them, you offer guidance, but you do not do the lifting. This requires a terrifying level of emotional discipline. It is agonizing to watch someone you care about hit rock bottom. The instinct to rush in, to write the check, to make the phone call, to absorb their chaos is overwhelming. But you must realize that stepping in prematurely is often an act of selfishness on your part. You are eliminating your discomfort of watching them suffer at the cost of their long-term autonomy. When you apply the 50-50 rule, something profound shifts in the psychological dynamic. You are no longer the omnipotent savior, and they are no longer the pathetic victim. You become partners in their reconstruction. Because they are forced to participate in their own rescue, they maintain their dignity. There is no crushing emotional debt because they earned their survival. They sweat for it. When they finally stand on their own 2 feet, they will not look at you with the bitter envy of a dependent. They will look at you with the genuine respect of an equal. They own their victory. You were merely the framework that allowed them to build it. This brings us to the agonizing art of setting boundaries. Society frames boundaries as walls built out of cruelty or indifference. This is a manipulative lie told by those who wish to exploit you. Setting clear, unbreakable boundaries is the highest form of respect you can offer another human being. It is you looking them in the eye and silently stating, "I respect your strength enough to know you can handle this." When you set limits, when you say, "I can help you review your resume, but I will not call my boss to beg for a job for you," or "I can listen to you vent for an hour, but I will be your emotional dumping ground every night," you prevent a parasitic relationship from forming. Parasitic relationships always end in betrayal. The host is eventually drained, and the parasite, disgusted by its own dependency, attacks the host. By setting boundaries, you force the relationship to remain symbiotic. You must accept that not everyone wants to be empowered. Many people are desperately searching for a surrogate parent. They are looking for a host to attach themselves to, so they can avoid the terrifying responsibility of their own existence. When you establish boundaries, these people will attack you. They will accuse you of being heartless. They will weaponize your past generosity against you, claiming that if you really cared, you would do more. They will try to trigger your guilt. Let them walk away. Let them call you arrogant. Their anger is not a reflection of your cruelty. It is the panic of a parasite that has just been detached from its food source. A strong person, a person capable of genuine gratitude, will respect your boundaries because they respect their own independence. A weak person will experience your boundaries as a violent threat. This is the filter. This is how you separate those who need a temporary bridge from those who want you to carry them forever. Nietzsche understood that suffering, struggle, and overcoming are the raw materials of a formidable human spirit. Amor fati. Love your fate, including the brutal obstacles. When you constantly intervene to make someone's life perfectly smooth, you rob them of their amor fati. You steal their opportunity to conquer their own chaos. This leaves us with the ultimate brutal test of your own emotional maturity. You must be willing to become the villain in someone else's story. If you apply the 50-50 rule, if you finally establish those ironclad boundaries and cut off the endless supply of your energy, a predictable reaction will occur. They will turn on you. The parasite, suddenly deprived of its host, will thrash. They will tell everyone who will listen that you abandoned them. They will rewrite the entire history of your relationship, conveniently erasing the years of your sacrifice to focus entirely on the one moment you finally said no. They will paint you as cold, arrogant, and selfish. Let them. Do not defend yourself. Do not explain your boundaries to someone committed to misunderstanding you. Their smear campaign is not a reflection of your character. It is the agonizing, ugly sound of them finally being forced to face their own reflection. By stepping away, you have given them the greatest gift possible, the inescapable necessity of their own survival. Let them hit the ground. The ground is hard. It is unforgiving, but the ground is the only place where a person can learn how to stand up. To master this dynamic, you must adopt the mindset of the ancients. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, observed nature to understand human duty. He wrote that a vine produces grapes and asks for nothing more. A horse runs, a dog hunts, a bee makes honey. They do not demand applause, and they do not keep a ledger of their deeds. If you choose to help someone, you must do it like the vine produces grapes. You give, and the exact second the transaction is complete, you erase it from your memory. You expect zero gratitude. You expect zero loyalty. If you attach an invisible string to your favor, if you secretly expect them to pay you back in respect or obedience, you are not being generous. You are simply a loan shark trading in the currency of emotions. But to truly insulate yourself from the pain of betrayal, we must take one final look into the darkest corner of your own psyche. We must confront your shadow. Why do you have this compulsive need to fix broken people? Psychology tells us that the savior complex is rarely born out of pure altruism. More often than not, it is a trauma response. You desperately try to rescue others because at some point in your past you were broken, alone, and waiting for a savior who never arrived. You are projecting your own unhealed inner child onto the people you help. You think you are saving them, but subconsciously, you are just trying to retroactively save yourself. You have to stop using other people's chaos as a distraction from your own emptiness. When you heal your own fractures, a profound shift occurs in the way you navigate the human hierarchy. You stop being attracted to potential. You stop looking for projects. You start looking for equals. You realize that strong, self-actualized people do not want to be saved. They do not want a savior. They want a challenger. They want someone who will look them in the eye, match their discipline, and walk beside them into the abyss. Helping is not saving. Loving someone does not mean sacrificing your sanity on the altar of their dysfunction. Giving does not mean setting yourself on fire just to keep someone else warm. The greatest wisdom you will ever acquire is learning how to watch someone struggle, feeling the intense empathy to intervene, and choosing to hold your ground instead. Because true power, as Nietzsche understood, is not holding authority over another human being. True power is having the absolute mastery over your own ego. If this truth unsettled you, if it made you uncomfortable, you are exactly where you need to be. Growth does not happen in the comfort zone. It happens in the friction of facing reality. We are building a sanctuary for those who refuse to be blinded by sweet societal lies. If you are ready to strip away the illusions, master your own psychology, and take absolute control of your mind, hit the subscribe button right now. Leave a comment below with the word awake, so I know who made it to the very end. The herd will keep searching for saviors. We will build our own strength. I will see you in the next one.